So you want to be a TV reporter?
For any reason.
You'll need nerves of steel.
He looked at me straight in the eye and I thought he was actually going to pull the trigger.
You'll need perseverance.
You're flying by the seat of your pants.
Patience. And above all,
Keep a sense of humour.
Guardian have
TV reporters, the voice of authority,
about a mile inside Kosovo now in the village,
bringing us the latest breaking stories from around the world,
Where we are,
in all conditions.
tonight between 80 and 100 miles an hour.
Whatever's happening,
They'd organise-
they're at the crux of the story. This is not a job for the faint-hearted.
TV reporting is, I think, the greatest fun you can have with your clothes on, as they say.
Got to have, at times, a skin like a rhinoceros.
Good morning, Captain Benstead, Television South. Could you tell me...
You need fairly good nerves, and I think you need a very strong stomach.
You'll be expected to answer questions that the President of the United States couldn't answer, or the British Prime Minister couldn't answer.
Standing up to your knees, your thighs in snow or flood water.
And I think you've got to have a lot of guts these days.
What you've got to do is have a strong bladder.
As you can see, they're not physical...
Because you can spend hours out there with nowhere to have a wee.
Get lied to. Get hit.
It's a little bit like a treadmill. It's a very fascinating treadmill.
Und jetzt muss ich lostreten.
What I like about it is what I also hate about it. You never know where you're going or what's going to happen to you, but that is, it's great joy.
The first challenge is making your report on location and talking straight into camera. This is known as the piece to camera. It may sound simple, but it can be fraught with problems.
One of the things they always tell you as a television correspondent is to make it dramatic. Make sure there's something going on behind you that will keep the viewer's attention.
So choose your location carefully. By the way, this reporter is also doing his own camera work.
Chico and Redding, linking California with the Pacific Northwest.
We were trying to do a report about what it's like reporting 24-hour news when you don't know what's happening. So we came up with the idea of the metaphor of being on a roller coaster ride, ups and downs, not sure what's going to happen. Then, next brilliant idea, let's do the links on the roller coaster. And that was it, just going round and round and round again on this roller coaster, trying to keep talking at the same time, not losing your stomach, not falling out, and not swearing.
Forgotten the rest of my lines, unfortunately.
You laugh, you swear, you might have to do it 10 times.
The story of the guy who went to the Green Line in Beirut to report on a ceasefire. By the time he finished the piece, the camera war had started again.
Sometimes you do them absolutely instantly. The stream of consciousness is so absolute that it just comes pouring out. And sometimes you just can't get it right. You keep screwing up.
But traffic wardens are hardly a Belfast phenomenon. I can say the word. Keep it wrong.
There were legal arguments about the validity of the original arrest warrant issued against him. I didn't say it properly. Pending his extradition back to the colony.
And watch out for an uncontrollable attack of the giggles, known in the industry as corpsing.
We thought we'd do this account of how the Danish are responding to the single currency, and we'd include in it, and this was the bright idea, a Danish idiom. And that was the big mistake.
They turn around and say, why aren't we doing well enough as we are? As they say in Denmark, is der ikke er.
Once you start to corpse like that, it's very difficult to stop it.
Hvis der ikke er ustykkelig hver mils. It's because you're reading it at the same time. That's what the problem is.
The producer, who was laughing, couldn't stop laughing, so he was therefore sent to hide behind a rock. But he poked his head up during the piece to camera, and I could see it come up out of the corner of my eye, and I was sure he was laughing. That didn't help either. So in the end, he had to go, I think, to a separate country, and then we did it.
Marvelous modern device.
So try not to laugh and make sure you get your words right.
The main thing they do is instill in you a very positive attitude, and then they reinforce that attitude.
No wonder they have so much sex.
The Duke of Edinburgh will leave Durban by helicopter for Spion Cock.
A Virginia classic from Bob Corey, Fresh Roasted Penis.
There's a golden rule in Pieces to Camera. Avoid babies and wild animals.
Hi, I'm Judy Wineland in The Great Outdoors. This week our
Tell them that they shouldn't use drugs.
Police say Pedro is just a little nervous about his new surroundings and should settle down soon. And they're still hoping to use him for visits to area schools.
Cloning enables scientists to get these valuable genes into animals much more rapidly.
By tomorrow, the shell of 25...
But if working with animals is unpredictable, what about children?
I knew that was good. Continuation of the noise.
This reporter is rather ambitiously trying to get this child to start his toy car on cue.
And his rather splendid toy. Now, you didn't press the button, did you? When I do that, you got to press the button. Not now. Under the 1990 Environmental Act, a continuation of the noise could have meant a fine of up to £5,000. And that's a lot of money for a little boy and his rather splendid toy. Under the 1990 Environmental Act, a continuation of the noise could have meant a fine of up to £5,000.
And there's one thing that's guaranteed to be a problem wherever you are. Noise.
Here in Trafalgar Square.
Happy New Year! The place is always terribly quiet and marvellously conducive to a brilliant piece to camera until you start.
The moment you start, ambulances drive past. Presumably they're waiting. Presumably they are trained to do this.
Cochrane's parent company, North British Maritime.
I was at a Grand Prix practice day, and it was one of my first stories as a young sports correspondent.
Okay.
And I went out to do a piece to camera with 10 minutes or 15 minutes to go before we had to feed our stories, send our story to the newsroom. And every time I tried to do it, another car would come round and drown out the voice.
Okay. Nigel Mansell, one.
And the cameraman was saying, look, we've got about 5 minutes now before we've got to feed this or else we're not going to make the news bulletin. So we'll have another go at it.
Nigel Mansell won here 2 years ago, but that was enough.
In news reports, it takes about 5 minutes to do most pieces to camera. I think I hold the record at ITN.
The idea was to do an underwater piece to camera.
Okay.
And it sounds simple, but the problems were horrendous. For a start, I'd never done any diving before.
The crew were also having problems.
Someone would run out of air, a battery would go down. So we continually had to keep going up and down, up and down.
And then there was the problem of air pressure, so Lawrence wore a nose clip.
And when we got to the bottom, I sort of... like this to pull the nose clip off. And then I could talk and do the piece to camera, which we eventually did.
1.5 days later.
Lawrence McGinty, ITN. Scaffer flow.
And perhaps the most important lesson of all, beware your cameraman.
Take a step back, Norm. Let me see a little shot.
This far?
No, a little more. A little more.
He made me do the piece to camera with the fishing rod in such a way that I was in profile and I was holding this rather thick fishing rod that sort of arched up like this, and he framed it so it looked like the biggest erection in the West Country.
Angling's the biggest participation sport in Britain. 2 million people, from kids with bent pins and jam jars.
The BAFTAs. For TV crews and paparazzi, it's the media event of the year. In 2 hours, the top stars will be here celebrating the best of British television. ITN senior media and arts correspondent Katie Derham will be covering the story for tonight's news.
Every year it seems to be bigger and bigger. More people go, bigger name stars, more camera crews, more coverage. It's quite a nice story to cover. There's not that sort of pressure. You know who you're going to get. You pretty much think, OK, this is going to be quite a straightforward exercise.
But this year, it's going to be more of a challenge than she expected.
Too late, is that? Yeah, hopefully, yes. It's not Helen Mirren, is it? Oh, is it? My God, she looks good, doesn't she? Is she up for anything? Alison, could I have a word, please, for ITV News?
Katie's first problem, competing with the autograph hunters.
I need to work out before I come to one of these next time. They had to get that autograph, and I've never been as manhandled in my life. I couldn't get over them. They just knew no shame. There's going to be a fight, and I'm going to start it. What do you think he'll say if I say I've got a job to do? No.
Carol! John!
Let me through! Let me through! Hello, darling. How are you? Very well. You're looking lovely.
Oh, thank you very much. So
I'd congratulate you on your snake.
Oh, thank you very much. Cheers.
Are you terribly excited about tonight?
I really am. I'm very geeked tonight. Very geeked.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, I'm sober and everything, but I'm quite geeked. Yeah. I'll see you later.
Anytime. Take care. I love the man whose snake you can admire, spangly as it is.
But the autograph hunters aren't giving up.
Carol, can we have a word for the news? Carol?
Carol, just turn around.
Can we have a quick word for ITV News? Yes. Come on. Sorry, excuse me. Can I just squeeze through there? When they see somebody they want, they just don't take any prisoners. I mean, crikey. The most ridiculous thing was they didn't give a monkeys that we were also involved in TV until we went out onto the red carpet, and suddenly we were the target. And, and suddenly I was getting asked my autograph, and I was thinking, why couldn't you have been this polite and this obsequious when I was stuck there behind the railings with you trying to do the same thing that you were doing? But oh no.
It's now 6 p.m, and in 10 minutes the winners will be announced.
Lots of opportunity.
The next challenge for the TV reporter to master, the interview.
I do have one terrible habit. I do forget people's names.
Rolf or Ralph? Ralph.
Oh, it's Rolf. Don't call me Ralph, I go mad. I go into a mad mode if you call me Ralph. Hate it.
Ralph, you actually do
Ralph? There's been trouble. Rolf?
Rolf, then.
What if I called you Som or Sim or something?
All right, Ralph, then.
Rolf?
Ask intelligent questions.
Chip shop, a gas explosion. Any idea what caused it? It was gas.
What's your name, Michelle?
Michelle.
Is this indefinite action going to continue indefinitely?
Watch out for politicians.
They've got to like you, or they've got to at least know you're not going to ask them daft questions.
Prime Minister, could I ask you how you will spend Christmas?
Well, I'm hoping to spend Christmas quietly at home, I hope.
With your wife?
Certainly.
That's the plan.
And family. And the family, I hope.
And did you do a parachute jump?
Remember, listen to what your interviewee is saying.
Did actually. One unfortunately broke their leg.
That's fantastic.
And watch out for double entendres.
You must have had some famous players come through your hands over the years. I can never rephrase that.
What were your feelings about seeing a snake in your drawers?
Oh, I should be so lucky.
But sometimes saying the right words can be the biggest challenge of all.
The Americans bombed a village in Vietnam. This was 1967, so right at the start of my career, which turned out to be a friendly village. The Americans are always doing this. And village was called Fuck Me.
The first test I remember in 1984 was in Bombay, and it was at the Wankhede Stadium.
The newsreader tried to pronounce it in different Fuck Me and Fuck Me and so on, but none of it sounded terribly convincing.
You just say the stadium in Bombay, I mean, you find a way around it, or try and put a wonderful, colloquial accent on it that allows you out of it.
And in the end, the editor, a sort of gigantic sweep of his hand across the large map of South Vietnam, said, well, let's call it by the name of this place next door. So I said, well, it's called Ban Me Twat.
We have live updates.
In part 2, reporting live.
I can't hear.
It's frightening. It petrifies me.
Hello, are you
The
confident?
dreaded Vox Pop.
Charming.
It's just a little kind of cameo of all that's bad about being a reporter.
Stay right where you are. We'll be back.
And best laid plans. When you've got to get it right first time, the pressure is on. To a TV reporter, it's the most nerve-wracking challenge of all. Reporting live.
The ultimate nightmare, of course, is to be live on television and forget what you're going to say, to absolutely blank out.
It's frightening. It petrifies me. I've never, ever got used to it.
Anthony, the drivers promised this would be bigger than the last campaign. Has this happened?
No, Alan, the driver's blockade seems to have
It's
gone
this
through.
reporter's first live link.
The drivers met at 5 o'clock in Quedale and...
And I nod like this at the camera when they say, Colin Baker is there. You nod with lots of authority, and I can nod with authority. It's just that as soon as I open my mouth, I am never sure what's going to come out of it.
We're all waiting to see if Bill Clinton will come clean over Monica Lewinsky. Did I really say that?
Mr. Prescott, are you satisfied with what you heard in the Commons this afternoon?
No, I want an independent inquiry to look at all the facts.
He was giving an answer, and he said, oh, sorry, I made a mess of that. Do you mind if I start again? And I said, oh, we're live. Sorry, viewers.
It took the Irish authorities to send the information about 10 days.
This is the notice with the photographs.
Yeah, perhaps I'll do that. Ask me again then.
We're on it.
Oh, I'm
This
sorry.
is the notice with the photographs.
Yes, the notice with the photographs about the bomb, right? Oh.
Mr. Prescott,
You didn't tell me it was there. Anyway, I'm sorry. Sorry to the viewers, and I'll start again. Go on.
Here, Richard Flynn, crime prevention.
So beware your interviewee, don't go blank, and be careful where you park.
Didn't apply the two deadbolts onto the door there, and obviously the Yale lock.
Will you come and move your Volvo? You're...
All right, Richard, we've got a problem here. We're going to get somebody to work here. I'm going to come through into another room.
And remember, no matter how good you are, you're always just a helping hand away from disaster.
Official. Paddy Kilty, as ever, has proved a big hit. The Christmas traders will be hoping the people here tonight will be putting their hands in their pockets so that they too can have a great Christmas. Niall Donnelly, UTV Live at City Hall.
Out of the corner of my eye, I could see a figure walking towards me, and I could see he just kept on coming directly at me.
From the Queen Mother. And, excuse me.
And he barged into shot, and I think he was a tourist who had a tiny little television with him and was so astonished at the thought that on his television was this picture and there was the man actually doing it, that he sort of came up to show me. But I sort of pushed him out of the way and apologised, and on we went.
It was a live headline at 7 o'clock. Here I am, Buckingham Palace, on the morning of the Queen Mother's 100th birthday. And as I was saying that, I could see in the camera lens, I could see a huge rabbit jumping behind me.
It did take quite a long time to realise people were as enthusiastic as they are about her birthday.
I thought, what should I do? And I thought, well, no, I'll just ignore it. So I carried on talking. And my producer, I could see my producer out of the corner of my eye go and sort of arrest this rabbit.
And
I just carried on. It was the big breakfast bunny, in fact.
As you say, we've been to Dover.
I was very, very annoyed, actually. And I went and told them so, which was a very bad idea, because they simply went on air and then said, oh, that Jenny Bond came along. I should have heard the language she used, you know. Not like she is on telly.
The big question, of course, is will they be here in 100 years' time for their 300th anniversary? That's the big question mark hanging over all army regiments.
Being upstaged is one thing. Reporting live from a war zone is quite another.
In Sarajevo, we had our edit suites, little edit packs set up in the hotel. And we led a fairly comfortable life there until the war closed in on us. The hotel grounds became the front line. And one day I was asked to do a two-way interview. I said, OK, I'll do it. But I stood out there. It must have been about 8:10 in the morning. And just as they started, and I was explaining how the latest ceasefire was unlikely to hold, well, all hell broke loose around us.
And it was a live report.
That is a hard one to say. I'm sorry, it's a little bit disturbing, some of this noise. I know that a bullet went very close to me, went right past my head and lodged in the wall beside me. But it is difficult, and if you'll excuse me, I just want to break off because we've had some incoming sniper fire, and I don't want to endanger the crew out here. Goodness. I said, we've got to be safe. So everybody scrambled for safety then.
30 seconds before Martin called off the broadcast, a bullet had passed a few feet behind his head and embedded in the wall. You can see the gun flash on the right of the screen. Another less dangerous threat can be the relationship between the reporter and the news anchor.
It's one founded on envy. The anchor wants to be in the field, cutting the mustard, and the reporter wants to be in the studio, strutting his stuff. The reporter doesn't realise how boring it is to be in the studio, and the man in the studio has forgotten how ghastly it is to be on the road.
The rule is that professionally, neither the person, the reporter on the ground, nor the interviewer should make the other one look stupid, but it doesn't always work like that.
Dan Coughlin is live in Sacramento now with a report on today's developments. Danny?
I can't hear our station.
Danny, get your finger out of your ass and start talking.
Okay, you're right, Vince. The speculation is rampant here in Sacramento.
There's always this desperate temptation to ask some question that they can't answer, to prove how awful they are.
You can get some daft anchormen who'd ask you things like, well, what's the mood on the streets then, Jeremy? Which generally means they don't know what question to ask.
And they said, we go straight to our reporter, Nick Owen, and he looked and glared down the camera lens and said, well, Nick, what's going to happen next? You rotter, because he knew and I knew that I didn't know the answer to that question.
You can hear there's a certain something in my voice that says, I'm going to reach out and strangle you, you daft bimbo.
And then there's the technical problems.
Planned regulations. Ted Preston, ITV News.
You stand there in all your glory, prepared to tell the world all the great and wonderful news about what you've discovered. And then you find that you can't hear the person in the studio.
David Shupman is there. David.
I'm not hearing anything, by the way, actually.
Martin, do police have any idea why Mrs. Burton went missing? Martin, can you hear us? I'm sorry.
But things aren't always what they seem.
As soon as possible.
If you get a question you don't want to answer or you can't answer, you start playing with your earpiece.
I would slap my head against my earpiece like that
and say, look, I couldn't quite
hear what you're saying. But if you're asking me so-and-so, the answer is so-and-so and so-and-so.
Sorry?
I think you've just got to be like a politician. You listen to the way that they work. They don't answer the question. They answer the question they want to answer.
I've always been prepared to have the heart attack on screen. I'm always petrified that I will dry, that I will be asked a question that I've probably rehearsed the answer to for the last half an hour, that I know the answer to, that as soon as my mouth opens, you go, interesting question. when they come back to me, you know.
So, some surprises tonight.
Meanwhile, back at the BAFTAs, Katie Derham's heading for a heart-stopping time, although she doesn't know it yet. In the press room, the winners are showing off their awards.
The winner was the unsuspecting Graham Norton.
14.
14, that's fine.
It's time for Katie's piece to camera.
So some surprises here tonight, but some very popular winners as well, especially Ali G, who was unlucky last year, but tonight has scooped 2 awards.
No problems there, but time is running short. The news goes on air in an hour and a half. She wants an interview with Graham Norton, and he still hasn't come backstage.
It was beginning to get to that point where we're thinking, well, if he doesn't get here soon, we're just going to have to forget this. But you really want that element, you know, you really want to sort of get the story, get the clip.
Graham!
Oh, this is quite a big room. Hello.
Graham, when we spoke earlier, you didn't think you were going to win this year.
No, I genuinely didn't think. I thought Rory would win for performance, and I thought Weakest Link was bound to win for the show. So it's a double shock.
I think we left them as late as we could, and I'm really glad we got Graham Norton.
The interview is in the can, but the pressure is really on.
There comes a point where you just have to go, no, I don't care what happens now. It'll be a whole lot worse if I don't make my feed time or my editing slot or my, just basically get the report done in time for the news. It is 9:20 now. We're not late. We're cutting it fine.
Katie's got just an hour to travel across London and edit her story. The next challenge for the TV reporter is stopping and interviewing people in the street, known as the Vox Pop.
I think Vox popping is fairly useless.
There is something absolutely devastatingly grim about it.
They're totally humiliating and awful to do, I think, because you have to go up to people, complete strangers, and ask them a daft question.
Do you wear socks in bed?
Condoms.
First of all, you have the embarrassment of people who do not wish to be asked anyway, and then don't wish to be asked about that anyway, and then who become completely convinced that they know you for some reason, that perhaps they met you at a wedding, or was it perhaps on a cruise, or were you the chap that cleared their backyard last Christmas?
I just wondered if you...
What a very nice-looking fellow you are. I've seen you before.
The big problem is that half the people obviously are foreign, well, more than that seem to be foreign.
Why have you come to London?
If you kick them, do they say ouch in English or a foreign language? They say ouch in English. You grab and say, do you mind standing here? Right, will you talk to me, please?
I love Vox Pops. I'm most unusual in that, I know.
I'd rather be in a war zone than Vox Pop people in Surbiton High Street.
Just asking why people buy Christmas cards, what you look for in a Christmas card, whether it's charity or the design or what it is.
You're talking to the wrong people. I am Muslim and she's Jewish. So neither of us.
I like meeting people, and I always find people respond terribly well.
The number of people who just walk on or look at you blankly.
People who are sometimes extraordinarily unaware of what's going on around them.
What's the problem here with this strike?
I don't even know, really. I haven't got the foggiest, I don't even know. I don't even know, really. What is it? I don't know. What is it? I don't know. I mean, somebody's striking for something. Somebody down there striking, too.
I mean, the Americans have a word for it. They call it a AAA. And it means ask any arsehole.
In part 3, violence.
Just smack me around the face.
Danger.
Sort of upside down, thinking, what on earth is going to happen?
And war.
I was lucky to come out alive.
One of the most unpredictable parts of the reporter's job is the doorstep.
Doorstepping is the second most horrible thing to have to do besides vox popping, and that's almost invariably hanging around trying to talk to somebody who absolutely and most assuredly does not wish to speak to you.
Mr. Bond, Paul Barry from Four Corners. Remember me? You do remember me.
Mr. Bond?
see the man's eyes getting sort of nastier and meaner. I thought, gosh, what's going on, what's happening? And then as I came to the end of my spiel, he just took it, just smacked me around the face. I went reeling.
Captain, I want to fight you.
Why is that?
Because you're a crumb, creep, lush coward.
You don't even know me, Mayor.
You are a lush, I can tell by looking at you. I was a cop all my life, and I know a lush when I see one, and you're a lush.
So expect violence, expect insults, but most of all, expect the unexpected.
No, I can't. No, I can't.
This may sound a silly question, but why have you got a basket over your head?
Because I don't want to be known, right?
Right.
Now, I'll tell you something about it. I think my husband's being incredibly wet.
Mr. Kisang, can we have a few words, please?
We're doing a programme about mistresses, and we feel that your story, above any other story, shows how women like you...
So many doorsteps, I feel like a milk bottle.
He is pathetic. He can't even do the washing up. The dishwasher's gone up. He can't even do the washing up.
And that's what we are, isn't it? We're milk bottles. We can stand around until somebody kicks you off a pavement and tells you to go.
I'm disgusted, just disgusted, and that's all I'm saying. So don't put my photograph on the thing, because I'm just a basket, a head in a basket, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
But remember, if you are going to challenge someone, get your facts right. This apparently racist advert in a local paper in Adelaide prompted a zealous local reporter to investigate.
Why don't you want Asians moving into your house?
Because I don't like the Asians, that's all it is.
You don't want them in your place?
They're just a mob of crooks, that's all they are.
Don't you know that there's a law against what you're doing?
Well, no one has told me that.
But you won't sell it to an Asian person?
If they come up with a buy, yes. All they're interested about is just to put the sign up. That's all. I've had agents, I haven't knocked them back.
What would... Oh, no, agents. do you ever hear
Asians, I'm sorry, well, that's a bad expression.
Is that what you say, no Asians?
No.
You say no agents?
Agents, sorry.
I was getting my teeth into my first real story. This young lad had been abducted and taken to Ireland and went missing for a few days. And I got a tip off that he was coming back, and I thought, I've got my scoop here. I'm going to talk to the mother, I'm going to talk to the kid. You plan to stay at home now for a bit, do you?
Yeah.
Are you sorry for the problems you caused your parents?
Danger can be lurking anywhere.
I'm told this is perhaps the ultimate deterrent for thieves.
Oh!
Far out that
Whoa! That's about as close as you want to be to life.
No lasting damage to plane or reporter.
This was a multi-millionaire businessman trying to sell his train set to a big city. We all knew, including the civil dignitaries and the other people who'd been invited along, that we were going to do a sharp turn left at the points. Unfortunately, it didn't seem that the driver knew that.
Slow! Slow!
We're not safe.
And I remember sort of upside down thinking, what on earth is going to happen? People are going to be killed in this.
Slow!
We're not safe.
Immediately after the crash, the hospitality ended. We carried on filming the wreckage, and I had to do a piece to camera.
We've just scrambled out of the wreckage that you can see down there. Neither of us are actually injured, though we're both obviously a bit shaken.
We were in a national park in Natal, just wanting to get some nice pictures of rhinos and elephants. And I'm driving through in a saloon car. Rolf, the cameraman's filming in the back seat, came round a bend, and suddenly, in front of us, a herd of elephants and one rogue male. I mean, trust them, there's always a rogue male there. It turned and just came for us. At amazing speed. I mean, you cannot believe how fast elephants run. I jammed the car in reverse. Is he still coming?
Yep.
And these extraordinary pictures of us just roaring back up a dirt track in the middle of this park with an elephant sort of peering in through the front windscreen at us.
You can't go to some of the places that my colleagues and I go to and do the kind of things that my colleagues and I do without really understanding that you've got to put your life on the line.
The best advice always is, it's time to get out. And the worst advice is often, you can get a bit closer, you know.
Told us to put our hands in the air and look forward. Don't turn round, don't say anything. And they put the gun to our heads and they told us they were going to shoot us.
He looked at me straight in the eye and I thought he was actually going to pull the trigger.
It was completely terrifying.
And he's put it behind my left ear and he pulls the trigger.
But I thought I'd had it then.
It wasn't loaded, it was, you know, a great joke.
And you could hear all the little bombers going off. Boom, 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 boom. And I lay there on the ground thinking, you're going to die now, Jeremy.
I thought, this is it. If I'm going to die, it's going to be here.
That is the moment when you sort of find yourself thinking of log fires and, you know, music and mellow type.
You think, why am I doing this? Why don't I do a sensible job?
I never come back to the hotel and think, my goodness, what a brilliant day that was. I think, what a fool.
What a stupid fool. How did you get yourself into this mess? I'll never do it again. And you do.
With the risks so high, preparation is essential. Today, Sky reporter Lawrence Lee is attending a special war zone training course in Hampshire.
Down! Stay down. Okay, don't run for it. You ain't going to outrun shrapnel. The air will literally zing with the stuff. Just look for somewhere you can get as much of your body into the ground as you can. Wow. Wow. What was that?
Sniper.
The thing I learned most was that you can't really ever know what's around the corner. The part I found most disturbing was when we were trying to find the sniper.
Don't take cover this time, just watch it. See if you can spot him. Yes. Right, where was that?
There was a big puff of smoke coming out of the ground directly in front of us, and all he was over a fold in the ground. And that's obviously quite scary.
All right.
The course is frighteningly real. In a simulated kidnap, the reporters, hooded and disorientated, are marched to a nearby field. For 20 minutes, they are made to lie in silence. Then, one by one, they are led away and their hoods removed.
It just happened really, really fast. This guy appeared, I was sitting on this side of the van, and I didn't even know where he'd come from. And he opened the door, started swearing at me and dragged me out of the van. And from that point on, I didn't know what was going on at all. It was all, I mean, it seemed very real, and it was all certainly pretty unpleasant.
In Sarajevo in the summer of 1992, it was very real.
I felt it my duty to go and see what I could. Tremendous amount of shooting going on. And I was out of cover for too long.
Get the wagon over here.
And at the moment I was hit, I felt a great wave of relief because I realized I wasn't going to die. It was just like a rather acute abdominal pain.
I'll survive.
Martin had been hit in his lower abdomen by shrapnel from an exploding mortar bomb.
I think I was very, very lucky. I could have been quite seriously injured. It could have locked all sorts of parts off me, which it didn't.
He was taken to hospital and 6 days later flown home by air ambulance.
It had a tremendous effect on my life because from that point on, I realized that I am mortal and that I shouldn't take things for granted. And every day since then has been, in a way, like the first day of the rest of my life.
You do have a kind of feeling that it's not going to happen to you. You do think that your presence, you know, with this camera and surrounded by this thing called journalism, protects you from the sort of slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. That is an entirely stupid view.
Kabul, Afghanistan in 1992. The country is in the middle of a civil war.
That morning I remember waking up and feeling very, very unlucky. Really, just really bad butterflies. I didn't listen to my feelings, and the feelings were telling me, do not go out today, stay home. The man came up to the car with a drawn pistol and looked inside. Didn't like what he saw, stepped back and started shooting. Get out, get out. And behind us, 1 or 2 Mujahideen opened fire on the back of the car. Get the f*** out! I remember seeing bullets flying through the seat just past my head. One of the bullets hit me in the face. I tried to open the doors, but they were locked. I tried kicking them, they wouldn't budge.
Jeff finally managed to climb out through the front of the taxi and scramble to safety.
All the firing seems to be coming from the square. We went in there. I managed to find my taxi driver. I said, right, hospital, take me to the Red Cross. I came in, face splattered with blood, and I was met by this Margaret Thatcher lookalike. And the first thing she said to me was, must you cover the war so enthusiastically?
We were in there on a wing and a prayer, and I was lucky to come out alive.
My first editor at ITN said, Snow, you may not be very bright, but you are a lucky boy.
So you'll need luck, and perhaps a little superstition.
And I ascribed my survival to the white suits. And from that point on, I've worn nothing else in dangerous places like Warzones and the House of Commons.
The way you put your shoes on, the way you tie your laces.
There are silver crosses and St. Christopher's, a row of beads.
The side of bed you get out on, how many times you wash the water down the sink.
This was sent to me. It's a piece of water snake skin. I've got lots and lots more of these things.
Martin used to rattle. They had so many things with him.
In part 4, dealing with the competition.
Anything you could just to get your story on first.
Will Katie hit her deadline?
It was getting very, very tight.
And going beyond the call of duty.
Actually, quite recently, I did a piece to camera in the nude.
For any TV reporter, perhaps the biggest battle of all is fighting off the competition.
There's always pressure to get the story. There's always pressure to do better on the story than everybody else.
The rivalry between BBC and ITN was absolutely vicious and wholesale.
I don't think the fierceness of the competition is a license for disgraceful, ungracious behaviour.
But not all reporters feel the same way. Just watch how this microphone standoff develops.
No one was injured, and the hostage situation came to a successful conclusion.
Give us a clue about negotiations.
Hey,
come on.
Hey, cool.
I don't give a crap who you are. Settle down.
You better get the off.
People would stop at nothing. Tires would be let down.
Slashing car tires, sending people in different directions.
Tapes demagnetized, film shipped on the wrong flight.
Not passing on information, doing an interview and then saying, you don't want to talk to the other side, they really don't like you.
Fixers told that you'd already gone.
Anything you could just to get your story on first.
Now, we expect it to start moving quite physically so you can see. Actually, have a look at this. This is the opposition.
The wheel is lifted into position.
He did it for us. Much better than those, isn't he? But no, we're a much smaller audience. But anyway, the big audience here.
Sometimes you'll be expected to go beyond the call of duty in the name of television news.
I think one of the highlights of my career, undoubtedly, has been Children in Need. I loved being Olivia Newton-John, a rather old Olivia Newton-John, has to be said. And Nick Witchell was John Travolta.
And we rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. My goodness, we did.
People would laugh at us because they'd see us going down the lifts every lunch hour, you know, in our little suits, you know, and we'd take our jackets off and go for it down there in a little room.
Jenny Bond and Nicholas Witchell.
On the count of 8, I had to come in and push him, and I had to really shove him and walk back wiggling my bum. I remember that. I was just thinking, oh my God, that bottom on display, but never mind.
And then we came to the bit where, of course, I had to kind of take her in my arms, wonderful moment, of course, and lower her gently to the ground.
And then I just had to try and keep a straight face while he started jumping over me.
I think she's been dying to do that for years.
Actually, quite recently, I did a piece to camera in the nude.
These people live here all their lives, and they survive on absolutely nothing, and yet have an extraordinarily good quality of life.
There was a very convenient tent flap, which avoided the watershed problems that you have if you actually do bear all before 9 o'clock.
And more than that, what are we going to do to them?
Vassar is one of Europe's largest nudist colonies.
Katie Derham has arrived back at ITN headquarters, but she's an hour later than originally planned.
As well, extraordinarily.
We're on air with our main bulletin tonight in exactly 20 minutes' time. That's not very long. And I gather Katie Derham's still editing her piece. I hope she makes it on air, otherwise we've got a big hole in our programme.
The actual winner was the unsuspecting Graham Norton. Yeah, that's great. There was no journalistic reason, really, why we should be late. It was because we'd been working on the story since 3 p.m. There wasn't a sort of, my God, the bomb's just gone off feel to the whole experience. It was, my God, we should have left earlier. You know, Graham Norton was a bit late. You know, it's not quite the same, is it?
3 minutes to an hour. Jolly good. Let's roll scene.
There was a point at about 10:20 when I think we were still... We'd cut about a minute. We still had another 30 seconds or so to cut. And it was getting very, very tight for time.
Do you have an ETA on Katie's story?
Tonight was TV's big night out. The BAFTAs have established themselves as the British TV Awards ceremony of the year.
What should have been a pleasant, calm day of showbiz and glamour did turn into a bit of a scramble at the end.
Katie made it in the nick of time.
He wants to be a millionaire. Katie Derham reports.
And after all the speculation that the best entertainment programme...
So that's how to master arguably the toughest TV job of all, the news reporter. But a final word of warning.
Anybody thinking of making a profession out of it shouldn't forget that actually what you spend about 95% of your time doing is waiting. Just waiting and waiting and waiting for things to happen.
I'm standing in the rain for London tonight, doing a story about nothing, again.
Waiting for one car, one prisoner and an escort to go in or out of this door at Parliament buildings. 9.5 hours later, I was told I was outside the wrong door. I was very, very angry.
Colin Baker for Thames News, Westminster. Soaked with cold feet and an aching heart. Married, several children. Really dreadfully
And just when you think it's all over, there's the sign-off.
And it's like a swimmer finally getting to the other side of the river. You think, thank goodness. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Sarajevo. And the cameraman says, but you're in Johannesburg. Oh.
Jane Lockery, UTV Live. Where is this?
Alison Jack, Sky News. Somewhere.
The hot, sticky weather should be making a return in time for the weekend. Forgot who I was.
Owen Thomas.
Thank you.
This is Jeff Mead, TVAM News, live Eastern Saudi Arabia.
I think they're quite good. It also makes it clear to even the doziest viewer that the piece is over.